Alright, what's going on guys? Daniel or Spidey here from Potato Life Gaming, and today I'm bringing you guys a Shadow Mage imprint video. I finally ended up getting all 9 major imprints, so I figured I'd go ahead and make another one of these imprint videos, showing you guys all the differences between imprinted and unimprinted skills. Also, I just wanted to let you guys know I finally ended up getting a new microphone, so there shouldn't be any more audio spikes. So sorry about the previous videos if the audio was pretty bad, but I hope now I sound very pretty and that you guys can hear my beautiful voice in higher quality. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the actual Shadow Mage imprints, starting off with the Invisible Hand imprint set. Okay, so to start off, the 1 out of 3 set for the Invisible Hand imprint basically just increases your dark bonus by 20 from using any of the following skills, and the buff lasts for 10 seconds. It only stacks once, but you can refresh it by using any of the same skills as well. And that's really all there is for the 1 out of 3 set, so let's go ahead and move on to the 2 out of 3. So for the 2 out of 3 set bonus, it says it affects Shadow Fist and says it transforms the shadow into a melee weapon for 2 seconds. Then it also says the form cannot be altered while active. Basically what this does is turn Shadow Fist into a sort of hold. So as you can see, when you use Shadow Fist, the shadow grips onto the enemy, holding it for 2 seconds in place. And what they mean from cannot be altered is basically that you can't use any other shadow skill while it's being held. And that's pretty much all there is to the 2 out of 3 set, so let's go ahead and look at the 3 out of 3 set bonus, which is pretty much exactly the same as the 2 out of 3 set bonus, except this time it's for Shadow Surge, and this time it holds the enemy for 5 seconds. Overall, I think the imprint can be pretty useful, and it definitely has a lot of utility, especially in parties for holding enemies. But I think the biggest drawback of this imprint is that you really can't use your shadow during the holds. As you guys know from the skill build video I made previously, the imprint I normally use is the Black of Night imprint set, but I do actually enjoy using this in things like arena or solo play. But since Shadow Mage already has so many holds, I really didn't think it was necessary. But it can be very useful and fun to use. Okay, so next we have the middle row imprint set, also known as the Shadow of the Gun. So this imprint set primarily focuses on the use of Shadow Mage's gun rather than the actual shadow, unlike the other imprint sets. Okay, so the 1 out of 3 set bonus for this imprint says that it boosts crit damage of Shadow Lunge by 10% for 16 seconds. It only stacks once, but it can be refreshed every 7 seconds with the use of Shadow Lunge. So if this is an imprint you think you might use, you may also want to go ahead and max the Dark Rage skill just to get the additional buffs, since you'd be using Shadow Lunge a lot. And one use of Shadow Lunge would also activate both buffs at the same time. Okay, so moving on to the 2 out of 3 set bonus. For this imprint set, it increases the number of maximum shots for Rapid Fire by 3. Meaning, if you max Rapid Fire's Awakening and use this imprint, you could shoot Rapid Fire up to 13 times, which honestly is just a ridiculous amount. And lastly, we have the 3 out of 3 set bonus, which says it reduces the number of hits by 9 and reduces the cooldown by 15 seconds for Gun Fu. It also says it reduces the target's piercing resistance by 20% for 5 seconds. So while Gun Fu doesn't do quite as much damage initially, you do get to use it a lot more often, and on top of this, it gives the enemy a 20% piercing debuff, which stacks really nicely with Dark Tide. And after some slight testing, with both debuffs on max, Rapid Fire ended up doing quite a bit more damage than it did previously. So essentially you can basically lower the enemy's penetration resistance by a total of 35%. And that's pretty much it for this imprint set, so let's go ahead and move on to the next imprint set. Okay, so the last imprint set is called the Black of Night imprint set, and it's my personal favorite imprint, even though I do actually enjoy playing all 3 different sets. They all seem to have their various uses, but anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the 1 out of 3 set bonus. So the first bonus for this set deals mainly with Dark Shadows, and mainly deals with the first part, which is the buff. At level 70, Shadow Mage can get Dark Shadows up to level 4 in the skill tree, which each level increases the amount of stacks you get by 1. Meaning when this skill is maxed, when you use the buff, you can actually get a total of 11 stacks, each stack giving you 100 attack for a total of 1100 attack power increase. But without the imprint, each time you dodge, when unimprinted, you lose a stack, meaning every time you dodge, you're losing 100 attack power. The dodge is also very useful, and when spammed, it provides a decent increase in survivability, especially when you consider how little amount of iframes Shadow Mage actually has. So, when it's imprinted, the Dark Shadows buff becomes a fixed rate of 1000 attack power, meaning you can basically just dodge endlessly and never lose stacks. The second part of Dark Shadows remains the same and still has its iframes. The only part that changes is the actual buff. Okay, so the 2 out of 3 set bonus deals with Shadowmire and says while inside the Mire effect, you and your allies become invulnerable. Basically meaning, compared to the regular Shadowmire that just sucks enemies in, it will now suck enemies in and basically make a giant circle or pool that gives you and your team complete iframes when you stand in it. And honestly, there's really no need to explain how useful this is, especially when considering it'll pull all the enemies into one spot and make your entire team invincible while you can stand next to them. Okay, and last we have the 3 out of 3 set bonus, which says Umbric Double grants an additional damage buff. It says the rates are 6% more damage per stack, and stacks up to 10 times, with each stack having a duration of 15 seconds. I explained this a little more in detail in the Shadow Mage skill build video that I made a while back, but essentially anytime you use a gun and a shadow skill simultaneously, or one after another, you'll gain an Umbric Double damage buff. And the cool part about this imprint is that it's a completely separate buff from the already existing Umbric Double skill buff. So you can get both damage buffs at the same time. And if you're to somehow manage to get full stacks on both buffs, you could potentially get a total damage increase of 75% more damage. And that's really all there is to this imprint set as well. And alright guys, that's all of Shadow Mage's imprint sets, and the differences compared to being unimprinted. So let me know down below if you do play Shadow Mage and which imprint set you like the most. And as usual, I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!